This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Sometimes we need to slow down and remember the simple pleasures in life. Good coffee, good books, and good company. Come on in. Take a seat. The coffee's just been brewed. Let's see who we have in the coffee shop today. All right, and as I look around the coffee shop, who do I have? There's Christopher Keene. How are you doing today, Christopher? And welcome to the coffee shop.
I'm doing well, thanks.
Glad to hear it. All right, now, first question I always get when I have someone on that Americans say has a foreign accent. Let's get it out of the way up front. Where are you from?
I'm from New Zealand, Christchurch.
Awesome, awesome. All right. And for the record, guys and gals who are listening, I interview authors from around the world. So, because that is the benefit of being a digital or online radio station. I can talk to anybody, anywhere in the world. Christopher, you've recently had a book come out.
That's right.
It's called Stuck in the Game. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, before we get into how long it took you to write and all the little things about actually writing the book, why don't you tell us a little bit, without giving away any major spoilers, why don't you tell us a little bit about the book itself?
Okay, I'll read the blurb, because that
sounds great.
Better than mumbling about it. After a terrible car accident puts 17-year-old Noah Newbolt into a coma, he is hooked up to the innovative Dream Engine, a virtual reality helmet that immerses the player in an online fantasy world. The Dream Engine keeps Noah's mind alive while the doctors work feverishly to heal his body, but dying in the game could send Noah into a coma. Meanwhile, Noah's girlfriend is suffering injuries from the same car crash, and the doctors grow confused when she seemingly fails to connect to the game like Noah. Then Noah encounters a mysterious avatar who suggests that the last remnants of Sue's consciousness are being held prisoner in the most dangerous part of the game. Noah takes it upon himself to rescue Sue, allying himself with a group of high-level players, but as he rises in the ranks, his high status earns him the ire of the top players across the world. Can Noah stay alive and awake long enough to rescue Sue and escape the game?
That is a fascinating sounding plot. I've got to admit it. I'm going to have to put your book on my to be read list. That is for sure. How did you ever come up with such a fantastic plot idea?
Well, I've always been interested in video games, and I thought that, like with fantasy books like Narnia and the Thomas Covenant series, where you go from our world into a fantasy world, was always interesting as well. So I thought I could connect the two ideas by making the game I guess you'd say the door behind the closet, door in the closet that led to the Narnia world. But I thought also that a lot of the inspiration came from a certain anime and games that I have enjoyed in the past that I thought I could do a little bit better because some of the plot tools didn't really work for me. So this is my take on that sort of style.
Wait a minute. You're saying some of the plot tools from Narnia didn't work for you, or some of the plot tools that your anime friends were putting out didn't work?
That's right. The plot tools that I had seen in some of the anime I'd watched and talked about with my friends.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify. Didn't know if we were putting Narnia down here.
No.
So, I mean, that's a classic.
It is.
I have asked so many people this question. What made you decide, other than the fact that you thought you could do a better job, what made you decide to sit down at the keyboard and write the book?
Because I thought I could do better. My friends told me that they doubted it, and that became a bet. They bet me that I couldn't write a better book or publish it. So over the next months, I typed out the manuscript of what I thought would be better, and then over the next month edited and submitted it to Future House, and that's how I got it published.
Wait a minute. You wrote, I believe you told me your word count was 70,000 words. You wrote 70,000 words in 30 days and then edited it in the next 30 days?
That's right.
That's insane. Okay, I've heard of NaNoWriMo, and they challenge people around the world to write 50,000 words in 30 days. But I can't even contemplate that, much less 20,000 beyond that.
There are different types of writers. A lot of writers write a lot over long periods of time, and some writers, they don't write anything over long periods of time, but suddenly they get inspired. They get a bit of a I guess I like to call it a bubble pop, because it's like an accumulation of ideas. Then suddenly the light bulb clicks in, and you have to write. And that's what happened to me, and I just got it all down very quickly.
That is amazing. You got your rough draft done in 30 days. Did you do all the editing yourself, or did you have a professional editor or a critique partner or a beta reader? Who helped you get it to where you felt you could send it off?
Well, I did have a few beta readers, and I did, and they helped me with the editing process before I started submitting it. And once I submitted it, Like most works, it goes through stages of developmental editing, copy editing, and then the final couple of proofreading. And that's how it gets to the legible stage. And that's when the beta readers come in that are the professional ones.
Now, was everything in the manuscript complete when you sent it off, or are you one of these rule breakers?
I was one of the rule breakers. I didn't actually have the ending completely down, and I thank Future House for helping me solidify the ending and round it off to a nice conclusion that also had a bit of sequel bait. So for them to help me do that was very, very helpful, and it also had me hopeful for a sequel that they might buy in the future.
That sounds cool. How did you find Future House Publishing, and did you do any research on them? What made you go with Future House? What was your path?
Well, I found them on a website, which is it's a hashtag website where basically every time an agent or a publisher does a tweet about something they will be looking for in a book to represent, they put the hashtag MSWL, which means manuscript wish list, and then it shows up on this website. So you look through the website and you find what the agents and the publishers are looking for, and when you find something that relates to a book or an idea that you've written or want to write, you know exactly who to send it to. And Future House had such a tweet where it said, "We're looking for cyberpunk and fantasy worlds," and I thought fits both of the ideas behind my story, so I sent it away for them. And the next thing you know, their acquisitions editor was telling me to send them the full manuscript, and it began from there.
Wow. When was this? When did Future House get you the contract? Yes. When did you sign with Future House?
That would probably be in April. Yep.
April of 2016.
That's right.
And this is
been going back and forth since then.
August of 2016, and your book is out.
And my book is out.
That is fast.
Their motivation was that, also they told me, was that the Comic-Con, one of the Comic-Cons in America, would be their first, their stand there would be one of the things they'd want to display it on. So it was quite a fast schedule to get it out.
Okay, I do have a question here. Do you work outside of your writing, or is your writing your job, or what? Because that's a lot of time. Okay, so you have a lot of time, so you can take all day if need be and work on your manuscript. Okay,
it's a great life.
That's a bonus, because I have heard many a story of writers staying up till the wee hours trying to write and things like that. So it's just, yeah, that must have helped a bit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
couldn't have done it without it.
All right. Got a couple more questions here. So what made you had you decided that you were going to publish it no matter what? In other words, if you hadn't been picked up by Future House, would you have continued to send it out, or would you have finished it first, or what?
Yeah, I was considering self-publishing, but as I said, I don't have a job, so I don't have enough money to do that. And in the end, I thought if I finished it, then I would self-publish it. But in the end, didn't have the money, so I tried it the old-fashioned way, and it worked out quite well.
So I know the book has been out not quite a month yet. Do you have any idea how sales are going, or no updates yet, or what?
I don't know. It's been out for, it came out on the 4th, so it hasn't quite been 10 days.
Right. So we really don't know. It's still kind of in an infancy.
I mean, is there a way to find out that on Amazon? I'd be interested. I mean, the hard copy hasn't come out yet. That's going to be coming out later this month, which we'll be able to order it on from Barnes & Noble. But at the moment, it's only the digital copy.
Okay, so it's only out for e-readers, for Kindle and Nook, I'm assuming?
Yep, at the moment.
Okay. That's definitely an interesting tale. I mean, all right, you decided not to, I've heard tradition. So, do you have an agent, or did you go directly through the publisher, or how did that work out?
Well, I do have an agent for another book, but this one here I went directly to the publisher through just found them through the manuscript wishlist website.
Wait a minute. You've written Stuck in the Game, and what is the book you have out with the agent? What is that called, if I may ask?
That's a young adult dystopian book called Shadowsphere.
Shadowfair?
Shattersphere, sorry. Shattersphere.
Okay.
Bit of a tongue twister, and that hasn't gotten any attention from the publishers yet, so I'm just glad it's off my hands for now. So I've heard stories about agents taking between 2 and 3 years to find a good publisher, so in the end, it was kind of like I was racing them. I was racing, because I got the contracts at relatively the same time, Shadowsphere for an agent and Stuck in the Game for a traditional publisher, and I was wondering which would get out there first, and the publisher was quicker, as you'd expect.
Oh, it definitely sounds it. It definitely sounds it. I mean, I'm not a writer myself, but I do lurk on the edge of the writing community because of my love of books. And read the horror stories and heard the horror stories, and I've read the success stories and heard those too, but it's just like, oh my gosh.
What horror stories?
I've heard of agents after a year of barely doing any work saying, oh, sorry, I'm not going to be your agent anymore, even though they never really checked. I've heard of people having agents selling the book to a publisher, and the publisher saying, oh, we want to do things like, we want to turn your lead character gay, or we want to change the gender of your lead character, or just major things that can seriously tear up a plot.
I'm sure things like this do happen, I'm sure, but I'd say that'd be very rare. A lot of the times that, a lot of the stories you hear, a lot of the horror stories, come from almost a fear. For me, I've heard it a lot, mostly from self-published authors. It comes from a cognitive dissonance for them trying to justify the route that they took. And in the end, it doesn't. It can happen, but I've never actually talked to an author that it has happened to.
I've been lurking around for a while, and I finally decided just to take my love of books in a different direction with the show, because I had actually started with an editor friend who came on the show just because I had just started with my full-time show, and I'd acquired this large block of time on Saturday, in addition to my weekday block, which at the time I only had 1 hour on a Wednesday evening. And then I acquired this large block of time on Saturday. Well, I only had it partially filled. So I contacted a friend of mine who's a professional editor and said, hey, can you come on the show and talk about editing? Well, I had so much fun doing that. I got an author to come on. And then I had another one lined up. I was talking with another friend of mine and was like, I'm afraid these author stories and things about writing are getting lost in the noise because they're mixed in with news and current events and all these other bits and pieces. So I decided to move them to their own home, which, Jesse's POV is my main show. It's where I discuss world events, current events, news, occasionally a little bit of politics, but I'm more likely to discuss politics in Turkey than politics in the U.S., to be honest. I created a show called Jesse's Coffee Shop and moved all the stuff over there. And then I was just getting ready to start doing more coffee shop shows when I found out the online radio station I'm with was going away and becoming KLRN. I don't even want to say the name of the old station, but because it's disappeared, KLRNRadio. And so I held off and waited, and then I've restarted Coffee Shop with a vigor. So now, all right, back to your story and your writing. All right, so you use the game portal and all this if he dies in the game, would he die in real life, or would he just go fully into a coma? And how much communication does he have with the outside world from inside the game?
Well, he can communicate with his family, because you can log into the game, essentially, the menu, without needing to be in essentially. It works through lucid dreaming. The idea is that you take a drug, and that puts you into a mental state in which your brain can essentially be manipulated by the dream engine, which is the helmet, and that creates a template which is put onto the online. It's all very technical, but the idea is that when you die in the game, you're given a prompt, like an electrical prompt, to wake up. And in his condition, if he wakes up because he's in a coma, he couldn't voluntarily log back in again. And it's necessary for him to be in the game because that allows him to have enough brain activity for his brain to heal. And this is just, in the game, this is what's helping the doctors to help him recover. But the idea is that he can't log back in, so he'll just go into a coma and he won't be able to get back out again.
Now, when you were putting this book together, how much research did you do on comas and brain activity and all those kinds of things?
Yeah, that was actually one of the big things I had to change because I said that he was in a coma originally, but in fact he's just paralyzed. But yeah, because originally he was in a coma. Damn, it's still in my mind that he was in a coma. But I learned that you can't actually dream while you're in a coma. It hasn't been recorded. There's no evidence for dreams in a coma or something like that. So I had to change it to he was actually paralyzed, and that the coma will be brought on by the prompt stimulus because of the brain damage he got to put in.
Okay, so he's paralyzed in the hospital, and basically the doctors in your futuristic world able to completely heal the paralysis?
Yeah, they are. The idea is that it just takes time. It is essentially a system that through brain activity, it heals itself.
Sounds pretty cool. All right, now.
It's sci-fi.
I know. People can dream. Yeah. So, all right, you've got one book out, another book off with, as you put it, off your hands and out with an agent. All right. What are you writing right now?
Oh, man. Well, as I'm working on the ideas for the sequel, but I haven't actually gotten any words on paper yet. I've actually got a big kind of mind map right beside me at the moment of what I'm working on because so many old ideas are kind of just, I'm trying to revive them through different means. But at the moment, my main one is a story about a girl who is cursed at a very young age not to age at all, to stop aging by a witch, you'd say. I'm going to call them Magus in this book. And essentially she becomes a hunter of these Magus to try and find the one that cursed her so she can take her life back.
That sounds interesting. So you are definitely a science fiction fantasy writer.
Definitely.
Are you the type of writer that when you are ready to sit down at the computer and actually write, do you have an outline, or at least, okay, I need the car accident to happen, I need this to happen, I need this, 3 or 4 basic plot points you want, but how you're going to get from A to B to C to D, you have no idea? Or do you have this long, detailed outline where all you have to do is go fill in the blanks?
Right. The gardeners, or the architects, I think that's the term for them. The gardeners are the ones that just write it as it goes along and then go back and fix it all later, and the architects have it all planned out from the beginning. I'd say I'm a gardener. I don't actually have it all planned out. I just go with how it feels and where I want to take it at the time, which is quite a problem. As I said, I had trouble with the ending, and I actually needed quite a few tidbits of help from the publishing company to finish it off, but it can have downsides and upsides. So the upside to being a gardener is that it's very easy to write because it's all new and exciting to you. Whereas if you're an architect and you've got it all planned out beforehand, it's like you already know the story. It's all very predictable, and so a lot of the excitement is gone.
Well, I have to actually agree with you with that. As I mentioned, I'm a voracious reader. Absolute first genre I go to is thriller, and my favorite author in that genre is multiple-time New York Times bestselling author Brad Thor. And I have been to a number of his book signings and other bits and pieces, and I've heard him say multiple times, both on air, in person, on interviews, that kind of thing, No joy in the writer, no joy in the reader. No surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. What he does is he has his key plot points. Like I was kind of like that hybrid thing. You at least know you need A, B, C, and D to happen. How you're going to get from A to B and B to C and C to D, you have no clue.
Well, in the end, when you've set up a premise, you need a direction for that premise to go, and so in order to have a direction, you need to have a purpose, and in a sense, that is, the B or the C.
Do your characters ever, and I've heard this term from other writers, hijack the story and run away with it and take it somewhere you totally didn't intend it to go?
Sometimes. It's more just if it's cool. Like, if I have a cool character and I want him to do some cool stuff, then I think to myself, well, how is this cool character going to do some cool stuff? And if that's what you mean by taking it where they want it to go, then I guess, yeah, sure.
I had one author I was talking to, I just bumped into them in a coffee shop of all places, and they were saying that they had actually it was during NaNoWriMo, and there was a group meeting there for a writing session, and they said that they'd actually outlined this story that was set in Saudi Arabia and ended up writing a story set in Italy. They just sat down to start to write an entirely different story in the same genre, but the character just said, no, I'm not going to Saudi Arabia. And literally this whole other story just came tumbling out.
Had they been to either country?
I actually didn't ask that question, so I didn't think to ask that one.
That can be a lot of... I would love to write a book set in certain settings, but I just have a feeling that if someone read the book and I didn't know anything about it, or I hadn't lived there, and I feel like maybe they'd be a bit, disillusioned by it because, as someone who lived there, they would see the flaws in the writing and the setting.
Well, actually, there is, and I'm not going to mention their name, but there is a well-known, best-selling book, a famous one, that actually lists landmarks and things that are all in the wrong places. And while the book did really well, the people that actually know where these things are just kind of disillusioned with it, because it's like, okay, he says this is here. This is actually on the other side of the city. Yep. So I have no idea what he's getting at. So research is important.
Well, that's why I like fantasy and sci-fi, is because you don't need to know where things are if you create your own fantasy world, because you can just create it as it goes along.
I've imagined writing things, but I never seem to be able to let my mind misbehave to the point where I could actually make up my own world that wasn't wasn't this world in a different spin on it. So I guess I'm not just not that creative.
Well, it's kind of odd, because when people say creating a world, they're not really creating a world. They're creating parts of a world as they come across them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's like bricks in a wall. You don't really, create the wall all at once. And a lot of people who say, "Oh, I'm trying to world build," it's for them it seems like a mountain to climb, because they actually think, I got to create an entire world. And a lot of architects do this, and it can, essentially ruin the world for them, because they already know everything that's going to be in it.
Well, we are at the bottom of the hour, so I'm going to ask you to hang on for just a minute with me, Christopher. Grab a sip of your coffee, and we will take a brief commercial break.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment. reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
And I thank you guys for hanging in there with me through that brief commercial break. I thank Christopher Keene for sticking around with us and having some coffee.
I was saying, I wish my name was Christopher Cream.
I'm sorry, I must have mispronounced it, Christopher Keene. I apologize. Christopher Keene, thank you for hanging in there with us through that commercial break. You've got your book out there. People can go buy it. They can read it. How excited are you? You mentioned you don't have physical book isn't out yet. How excited are you to finally get that physical copy in your hands?
Very excited. Won't feel real until I do.
Other writers who are out there listening to this who go, I want to be published one day. What advice would you give them?
For writing or publishing?
Let's start with writing because you got to have something to publish.
Right. Well, I think that when it comes down to it, all comes down to a feeling. You have to have a feeling that you're passionate about it. Maybe it's a feeling of dark city characters who are lovable, or maybe it's an expansive world with a lot of creatures, and maybe it's something as simple as a family matter that needs to be resolved, and something as simple as a pet and wondering what they do. When it comes down to it, you really need to have a feeling that you can immerse yourself in, because once you're passionate about that idea and you can immerse yourself in it, you can start transforming the tell of the plot to something that's a bit more in depth. There's something that's more showing, that has a lot more description, and has essentially explores what you love about it.
That sounds like really good advice. Now, are you going to suggest that other writers who are aspiring to get published submit manuscripts when they think they're finished, or when they've had feedback from beta readers that say they're finished, or at what point do you think someone is actually ready to send their work out into the world?
I would say that, it's good to have your work finished. It's good to have people who will read through it for you and give you critiques. And it's good to have it, edited to a standard that it's legible at least. But in the end, you really have to. For me, it was just along the lines of: do you have a solid story? Do you have a story that can go somewhere, that can take you somewhere, that you have good, you have good writing for, that you can submit? And I'd suggest, if it's a full book, I'd suggest at least over 50,000 words. And then once you've done that, if you get a good request for a manuscript or a synopsis or anything like that, then you've got something. If you don't have everything you need at this point, then it's going to be a bit hard to rush it out in the time span that they're still interested in this idea. So it's better to have it all prepared. But if you don't, make sure you know where it's going.
Well, that is very interesting advice. Now, I've been told, like I said, I'm not a writer, that every writer needs what they call a writer's platform, the social media, the Facebook, the website, the Twitter, and all those other kind of interactions. What platforms do you use, and how far before publication did you get all this started, or are you kind of playing catch up with that?
I'm playing catch up. I had a blog. I've had a blog for about a couple years now. Only had a couple hundred followers, but in the end, that helped me to get it out there. As soon as I didn't actually have a Facebook, believe it or not, until they said, "Yeah, you should get a Facebook," and I didn't use my Twitter as much until they said, "Yeah, you should probably use your Twitter." And another one that's quite big was Goodreads. If you have a Goodreads profile that you can use that's linked to all this stuff, then that's really handy as well.
Okay, so you've got a Facebook author page, you've got a blog, a Twitter, and a Goodreads.
That's right.
So for those people who are listening who aren't familiar with Goodreads, why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Goodreads is a website where you can find books and authors and give reviews and essentially find similar books to the books that you're interested in. And you can join groups of authors, and you can follow authors and find out when their next book is coming out. And yeah, it's just a good website all around for being able to follow literary stuff.
All right. I believe you'd mentioned to me at some point that there was enough, we'll say, loose threads left hanging throughout Stuck in the Game. There's a sequel potential. Have you started on that sequel yet?
Ideas. I don't think I'm going to start writing it until they ask for it, because I've got a lot of ideas that I've been playing around with for other stories, and I don't know how this book is going to go yet. So if it doesn't go well, then I could very well write a book for no reason. And I like to be able to keep my options open.
I can't even imagine trying to write that much in that short a time frame. That just astonishes me. And, I mean, I know, my favorite author, Brad Thor, he puts out a book a year. And the question came up at one of the interviews I saw with him, how long out of each year do you spend, because he includes a lot of real-life facts that he absolutely nails to the wall perfect. And how long do you spend researching? How much time do you spend writing? And he's admitted he spends 6 to 9 months to write a book. And his books are around a little bit higher word count. They're about 85 to 90,000 words. Now, I've also heard of books being, like Game of Thrones type books, being well over 130, 140,000 words.
more like 300,000.
Holy cow.
Yeah, they are a beast.
I can't even imagine how thick a 300,000 word book would be. I mean, that's mind-boggling.
Have you seen them on the shelves?
No, I've got the Kindle versions. Actually, we own the Kindle versions because my husband's been reading them, not me. I haven't gotten around to it yet. It's on my to-do list, but it's
next time you're in a bookstore, just have a look at the fantasy shelf and you'll see the massive bricks of the books that they are.
Now, is your fantasy book, is it adult? Is it young adult, middle grade? What readership level is it aimed at?
It's a young adult, yeah. I originally wrote it as a NA, new adult, but that was a bit of a vague demographic back then, so young adult is basically the default for anyone below, I guess, 20.
All right, so what is the difference between new adult and young adult?
Well, young adult is generally, when people think young adult, they think teenagers. New adult, I think, is a demographic that was defined by people who would look at young men and women and say, they don't seem adult to me. They don't seem, I guess, independent enough yet. They're still they're still in college. They're still they're still learning. They're still having a bit of a I guess a coming of age. So that's generally what new adult is for.
You aren't even going to. Are you? You said you're not going to actually start writing the sequel until Future House comes to you and says, hey, can we have book 2? Are you at least going to jot down ideas or thoughts about it?
I have a lot of ideas. As I said, I'm the type of person who doesn't write for a long period of time and then suddenly just all at once just pumps out a book in about a month. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm just accumulating ideas for the bubble.
Now, do you keep a notebook or a journal, or how do you keep all these ideas straight?
I remember them.
So it's literally all in your head.
Yep.
That's wow. I don't think I could keep it all in my head because it seems like a huge amount of information to process and digest and things like that.
You got to kind of be a geek for your own stuff in a way. There are a lot of people out there who know off by heart, the entire backstories to, say, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, and they can spout off the stuff. So if you're like that with your own work, you can just remember it.
Well, I guess that's true. I don't think that topic's ever come up. All right, so would you advise that someone who they've written their manuscript, they're about to start submitting, when would you suggest, since you're a little bit behind the 8 ball, when would you suggest a writer who is on the cusp of becoming an author by either catching an agent or a publishing house or self-publishing, when would you suggest they start their writer platform?
Aspiring. I would say that they really need to have other people look at it. They need to get feedback. If you don't have any feedback, then it's just you.
Right. But I'm saying their manuscript's done. They've gotten the feedback. When should they start the website, the blog, the Twitter, the Facebook? At what point, since you were kind of behind the 8 ball in that aspect, when do you think people should actually do that? Should they
right away?
Okay, so it's never too early to start that kind of thing?
Yeah, just right away, as soon as you can. If you can get, you won't, before you've published anything, you won't get any attention. You won't get any, unless you have friends or a community of bloggers, then you're not going to be very popular. But at least you'll have them to help you get popular when you do get something published out. Okay,
so now you were mentioning feedback on books. I mean, did you give your books to your friend to read, to your friends, to your family, to your fellow bloggers? Who did you pass out these versions of your books to get the feedback you needed to help you polish it, to make it shine?
Well, I have one friend, and he's going to laugh when he hears this, but he's a bit of a jerk. And that's why I like him, because he is the most critical person I've ever met when it comes to plot, when it comes to story, when it comes to silly things. He's more than likely going to make fun of you, or fun of me, sorry, whenever he finds something a little off. And I couldn't be more thankful, because the more critical you are, the better your book's going to become.
Okay. Would you suggest getting people like your girlfriend, your mother, your sister to read it, or don't you think they'd be critical enough?
You get them to read it for different reasons. Obviously, the critical person's going to be good for plot and narrative and stuff. But when it comes to getting your girlfriend or friends or people who are going to be a bit biased about it, then you should have them look at things like maybe word flow, maybe spelling and grammar if they know anything about that. Just getting another set of eyes over it to see if it doesn't, if it's legible. That's probably what they're for.
Okay, so you don't think they'd be the best to basically say, oh, this needs changing, this needs changing, this is good, this is bad, because they're too emotionally involved, for lack of a term, as far as like tearing apart the plot.
They can tear apart the plot, but it's more along the lines of a lot of the stuff that critical people do. It's all subjective. It's all subjective. But the idea is that if you tear apart the plot, you might give some bandages as suggestions. You know what I mean? Like how are we gonna fix this? That's probably a better way of putting it.
Okay, so you're saying use constructive criticism, going, okay, this doesn't work because somebody used an arrow as a slashing weapon versus a stabbing weapon.
Right.
So, but if you make it a stabbing weapon, it'll make a lot more sense.
Yeah, it depends on what your motive for that scene was. If your character was someone who didn't know, how to fight with an arrow, or it wasn't their intention to kill the person, but maybe just to scratch them. You never know what the situation is.
Right. I was picturing someone who was, there wasn't enough distance. They had a bow, they knew what to do with it, but there just wasn't the distance that they would have needed to get off a shot. So they just grabbed an arrow, and instead of slicing the person, like a knife, they just literally plunge it into whoever they're fighting with's neck. In that case,
if they want to kill the guy, sure, that seems more effective.
Right, and that's the kind of things I could see someone pointing out who may be close to you, but it's kind of a constructive feedback versus you got a plot hole over here big enough to fly a dragon through. No,
that's good as well. It's like a lot of the plot holes that someone's picked up in my books. I really, that's the sort of things that you can fix with a single line of dialogue. But without that line of dialogue, you'll have people just, hounding you.
I had read a self-published book, and I'm not going to give out the name or the author because I was reading along, and this main character had walked to the other end of the house to brush their teeth. Kind of a really boring thing. And with no explanation, the next thing you know, no explanation saying she walked back, what she did, the very next scene, she's in the living room watering the plants. I'm going, wait a minute. We went to do A, and now we're doing B? I feel like there's something missing here, so...
Yeah, I mean, like the example I gave before was that originally the main character in my book was going to be in a coma, and the game works through lucid dreams. And then my friend told me, you don't dream when you're in a coma. So that was a big plot hole that I had to fix by just saying, oh, he's paralyzed.
Can you, without giving away, think where is he paralyzed from the neck down, the waist down, the shoulders down? Do you go into that?
He's got no motor function whatsoever.
I'm assuming he can at least move his eyes.
Nope. The part of his brain that controls motor function is pretty much mashed.
Okay, as someone with a little bit of a medical background, I'm going to say ouch here because, and I hate to do this, but if he is that bad, if his stem cell
he's probably dead.
Yeah, I'm kind of going...
Yeah, he's probably dead. And that's when I can say science fiction, healthcare, but at the same time, it's kind of like it's not really it's not really gone into too much detail. That part, it's more along the lines of
that's good.
The part that controls motor function is being damaged, and therefore you won't be able to move.
Okay, and as we discussed off air, my kind of reason for asking that question, I want to explain it to my audience if they're listening for the first time, if they're not a regular listener to my other show. I'm in a wheelchair, so anything about being paralyzed kind of fascinates me because, well, I live my life in a wheelchair, so it's a huge fascination for me.
It's interesting that it happened through the same means in which it happened to the main character.
Yes, it was a car accident that caused it, but there wasn't futuristic science fiction healthcare to fix me. And given the circumstances, I am quite comfortable living the rest of my life sitting down, for lack of a term here, and rolling around. And I have to say, I haven't let it kill my spirit. My legs may no longer work, but I'm here and I'm still doing what I love.
I mean, that's actually a thing to put that in a lot of what publishers and agents are looking for nowadays are diversity in anything you can imagine. They want voices from different types of people, whether it be different races, sexualities, genders, and disabilities. That's like a huge one. So for a lot of people, you could imagine that someone who is paralyzed in some way or another is a disability that they would be looking for in their diversity range.
Yes, but I'm not sure I have it in me to write 50,000 words, much less some of the genres I've looked into that are 80, 90, 100,000. I'm not sure I have that in me, so I think I will leave that to the writing community and say, you guys have fun with it.
Well, but as I said, like if you could put what you told me your whole story in interesting detail, and it was a very good story. And if you could put that into a short story, like just script what you told me, that would be, something you could submit even.
Okay, where would you submit a short story to?
Oh, there are a lot of. Hang on, there's actually a website about short story publishing at the moment. Carina Press is one that's doing it at the moment. I have to look it up, but there's quite a few at the moment. Yeah, Carina Press is now accepting short submissions. There's another one, Erica. I can't remember her name. So I'm on my partner's laptop at the moment, so I don't have all my history and favorites sorted out, so I can't actually give you the links, but I could send them to you afterwards if you want.
Oh, sure. If you don't mind, I'll include them in the description for aspiring writers that are interested in submitting their short stories. So, like I said, I don't know that I'll ever sit down and write out my story, and if I do, I'd want to, as I do with my podcast, as we discussed off air, I do my podcast under what writers would call a pen name because of my personal backstory, which is available on my website, jessiescoffeeshop.com. Now, we are coming up at almost the top of the hour, so why don't I give you a chance to give out all the social media stuff that you've been working on building up. Maybe you'll get some new followers.
Okie dokie. Well, my blog is probably the one I update the most is fantasyandanime.wordpress.com. My publisher is Future House Publishing, which is it's all one word.com, so Future House Publishing, or one word. My Facebook is Christopher Keene. That's Keene with 3 E's, EENE, and that might be a bit hard to find considering there's a lot of Christopher Keenes, but I'm the New Zealand one. And my Twitter is under my online name. Well, my Twitter at the moment should be Crisk, so CHRISK at the moment. And my Goodreads is just Christopher Keene as well.
All right. Before we close out the show, is there anything along your journey that you wish you could go back and tweak or change, or are you happy with the way your journey has progressed?
I probably would have gotten into the social networking side of it a bit earlier. That way I might have been able to have a bit more of a following on these other platforms before I went and tried to use them for my own means. At the same time, I guess I would probably have I wish that a lot of the things I submitted, I had waited until I knew what I know now about sentence structure and editing and even the most basic plot tooling and having good beta reads to go through it. And that way I would have had more of a chance to get it done earlier. But yeah. And also, yeah, that's the main one, is I just wish I was more critical of my work, because a lot of writers, a lot of aspiring writers, they have an attitude of it's fine, it'll do, but you really need to get nitty gritty with the specifics of writing and plot and how it flows and character voice. And if you're not good enough, then and you're not getting published, that's probably why.
All right, so that's actually great advice for new writers. So do you use online critique sites like Scribophile or anything like that? I've heard of those. I have no idea how they work. I've heard you have to review other people's work before you can submit your own. Are you involved in any of those online communities? And do you participate in what I've heard of as NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month?
I have. I mean, I haven't participated in the Scribophile thing or any of those critiquing forum things, but I have participated in NaNoWriMo. It's a good prompt, it's a good motivation for some people, but if you're only going to write 50,000 words, then better finish it. That's all I can say. Better if you're gonna do 50,000 words, you might as well finish it and turn it into a real book.
Okay, so the novel may not end at 50,000 words, even though NaNoWriMo says that's a quote novel. There may be more work to do after November, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's it depends on what genre, obviously. If you're writing an epic fantasy and it's only 50,000 words, then it's definitely not going to be suitable for submission. So, but if you're writing, say, a thriller or a romance, 50,000 words might be fine.
Thank you very much. It's been fun having you in the coffee shop. And when that next book, whatever it is, whether it's a sequel to Stuck in the Game or what was the other book you mentioned that was out with the agent?
Shattersphere.
When Shattersphere comes out, or you have a date, don't ever hesitate to contact me. And any of you authors out there, come join me in the coffee shop. I am very easy to find, jessyscoffeeshop.com. You can find me through the KLRNRadio.com website. I am on Twitter at Jesse's POV. Jesse's POV, for the record, is the name of my other show. However, I'm there. So,
thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been great. And thank you. You've been an outstanding guest.